Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. Today we bring you some significant news. Camilla is in turmoil as Princess Charlotte stuns the nation with her speech and transformation, as reported by an insider. King Charles wants his granddaughter, Princess Charlotte, to participate in more royal events, having seen her development and valuing the assistance provided by Princess Catherine and the Princess Royal in her training to become a royal family icon. According to the source, Princess Charlotte's remarkable speech to the family astonished and distressed Queen Camilla. This film will elucidate the reasons behind Camilla's distress. Princess Charlotte's impromptu speech at the royal gala captivated a monarchy and redefined a generation. An elegant evening of dazzling attire, well-prepared addresses, and kind pleasantries was anticipated at the palace. The splendid ballroom of St. James's Palace was rendered speechless by the events that transpired on that brisk autumn evening at the annual Royal Charity Gala. Dignitaries and philanthropists observed as Princess Charlotte of Wales rose, her serene demeanor reminiscent of a much older lady. Not even the most seasoned courtiers, the global media, or Queen Camilla could have anticipated her remarks. Her incisive, authoritative statements resonated across the vast hall, embodying more than just youthful innocence. They presented heritage valor and profound, unblemished truth. A moment that silenced the monarchy, evoked national sorrow, and initiated a new royal era thereafter. The environment, a radiant platform for veracity. The Royal Charity Gala has always been one of the Crown's most sophisticated and eagerly awaited occasions. Conducted under the grand chandeliers of St. James's Palace, it effortlessly integrates centuries of history with modern philanthropy, uniting the monarchy's responsibilities with popular generosity. Annually, dignitaries, benefactors, and celebrities arrive in splendid opulence, welcomed by solemn royal guards, dazzling media flashes, and the melodic artistry of the palace orchestra. This evening felt distinct. The atmosphere exhibited a subtle, almost undetectable shift, a tension not attributable to the individuals there, but rather to an unforeseen element. As individuals entered the expansive ballroom, whispers and greetings permeated the atmosphere. Lengthy, immaculate tables were adorned with ancient crystal glassware and linens embroidered with imperial ciphers. The lofty arched windows facing the mall were framed by majestic banners displaying ancient coats of arms. As always, King Charles III and Queen Camilla occupied the head table with composed expressions. Prince William and Catherine of Wales arrived shortly thereafter, followed discreetly by their children. Princess Charlotte donned a powder blue gown that shimmered like morning frost under the bright lights. She seemed contemplative, as if she were scrutinizing the landscape rather than just being within it. Charlotte exhibited an inward concentration and resolve as her brothers, Prince George and Prince Louis, observed with innocent wonder. The event started with customary introductions and accolades. Representatives from children's hospices, mental health organizations, and environmental groups supported by royal patronage delivered comments. Attendees responded with courteous smiles and subdued applause. As the evening established its pattern, a murmuring near the stage disrupted it. An announcement was issued, but not inside the leather-bound program. Upon seizing the microphone, the master of ceremonies adopted a more melancholy tone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we have a last-minute modification to our itinerary. It is my honor to offer the brief speech of Princess Charlotte of Wales." Surprise swept across the crowd. Queen Camilla's eyes widened considerably, exposing a lapse in her royalty. King Charles leaned nearer, astonished and captivated. Catherine acknowledged her daughter Charlotte with a soft nod and placed her hand on her back at the Wales's table. William observed with pleasure and protective attentiveness. He likely comprehended most profoundly the implications of a young prince addressing the people. Each statement may be misinterpreted, every pause scrutinized, and every event recollected for decades. Charlotte rose elegantly but confidently. Her little step echoed on the marble floor as she neared the platform. The room seemed to pause momentarily. Initially, she remained mute. Instead, she gazed over the multitude, youthful and aged, noble and plebeian, robust and optimistic, anticipating a speech and an insight into the woman this young princess was becoming. An irrevocable transformation occurred in that silent, charged moment before her utterance. The gala had transformed from a conventional ceremony. A new narrative was unfolding, altering more than the ambiance of the night. The legacy of the subsequent generation will be redefined. An unexpected revelation. The subtle appeal that transformed everything. Incidents in royal history occur suddenly. Advisors do not prepare or rehearse them in private settings. They penetrate tradition like a gust of wind through a sealed window, unanticipated, unequivocal, and transformative. A singular moment. The room, once filled with courteous dialogue and the sound of clinking glasses, became hushed as Princess Charlotte ascended the podium. Her entrance onto the platform and the anticipation of something extraordinary and unfiltered astonished the crowd. The majority of the audience was oblivious of Charlotte's desire to speak earlier that day. Even fewer comprehended the rationale. An unidentified royal source said that the little princess approached her mother that morning with a composed and assertive tone. She expressed a desire to convey something from my heart. The briefing documents for the recognized charity, particularly the narratives of ill and solitary children, impacted her significantly. Upon attentive listening, Catherine discerned her daughter's resolve. She was blessed. William, both touched and worried, acquiesced, placing his confidence in his wife's wisdom and his daughter's remarkable maturity. In an establishment where every move is examined, the royal communications team had to incorporate her into the evening's agenda discreetly. Princess Charlotte confronted the situation independently before several state officials, industrial magnates, and global media representatives. She gently grazed the borders of the podium. She elevated her chin. Her position reflected an individual educated in public affairs without pretension or rigidity. Merely the understated authenticity emerging from a youth who had been observing the world with more diligence than many had anticipated. On the first row, Queen Camilla remained still with her gloved hands resting on her lap. She leaned slightly forward, her expression fervent but enigmatic. King Charles, with a furrowed brow, said something indistinct to an aide beside him. Prince George observed from his seat, his eyes gleaming with fraternal pride and curiosity. Even experienced journalists, veterans of several royal events, seized their pens, recognizing this was an unmissable moment. Subsequently, Charlotte articulated. She spoke with a gentle clarity, exuding both confidence and tenderness. It amalgamated her mother's elegance with a subtle fortitude bequeathed by generations of regal women, from Elizabeth II's sense of duty to Queen Victoria's resolve. She started with a discourse about compassion service and the subtle strength of altruistic individuals. She discussed the generosity present in the room, the concealed children, and how a single act of benevolence may alter a life. Her words were directed only by memory and meaning, without the use of a script or auto-cue. Her youth seemed to dissipate as she spoke. A noble voice and a generation intent on using power for benevolent purposes endured. Despite being unexpected, her last words reverberated gently through the hall, affirming that this was neither an error nor a capricious impulse. The commencement occurred. Subsequently, everything changed. A contemporary royal education. Cultivating empathy inside the palace. Princess Charlotte was subtly groomed for such occasions before her first appearance on a stage. Amidst global focus on tiaras, titles, and public engagements, Adelaide Cottage and Kensington Palace facilitated an alternative kind of royal education. William and Catherine cultivated their children to be public servants, representatives of a new era, and embodiments of unwavering elegance in a rapidly changing world. Charlotte was nurtured with a blend of regal obligation and youthful autonomy. She was subjected to public scrutiny and global visibility in contrast to prior generations. Catherine, Princess of Wales, often expressed her desire for her children to understand the world they would serve. This necessitated their attendance at public occasions and elucidating their significance. Charlotte was raised on narratives of warrior sacrifices. She comforted hospitalized youths with a maturity that astonished her caretakers. She posed more questions than normal on environmental projects. She was curious about others' emotions, challenges, and aspirations rather than only their lifestyles. This education was profoundly personal rather than academic. Home discipline and unwavering affection were harmonized. The children approached their parents with respect, while recognizing they may inquire about anything. Charlotte sometimes read aloud to her younger brother, Prince Louis, or meticulously elucidated a royal event to him when he became restless. Catherine let her daughter think independently without interruption, cultivating fierce autonomy. William directed her softly with his own authority. Having been raised under the global media limelight, he fervently safeguarded his children's privacy while acknowledging the need for readiness. He would pass by her at family events, offering affirmations and instructing her on managing the cameras. He instructed her to wave, and he saw others doing the same. Charlotte's understanding was concealed from the majority. She got notes from folks worldwide impacted by her grandmother, Princess Diana. She eavesdropped on her parents deliberating on how to use their position for benevolent purposes late at night. She obtained candid responses to difficult questions like suffering, bereavement, and duty. A year before the dinner, a notable event occurred. Charlotte followed her mother to a pediatric hospice. Catherine wept as a little child with luminous eyes presented her with a handcrafted bracelet and said a few words. Charlotte acquiesced, knelt to meet the girl's gaze, and embraced her affectionately. Although it did not get media attention, it transformed her. The gala event included more than a child reciting from memory. Years of intentional upbringing, limited exposure to the crown, and a growing awareness of her little voice's significant influence molded her. This was spontaneous, intuitive meeting preparation. A young king was defined by experiential wisdom and fervent compassion rather than lineage. Charlotte did not achieve fame. She developed maturity. The world was beginning to comprehend the rationale. Address that astonished the nation. A solitary, unremarkable phrase initiated the whole sequence of events. The speech was authentic, unembellished, and unscripted. Princess Charlotte gazed across the expansive auditorium, her little hands gripping the podium, and said, "This evening I speak not as a princess, but as an individual." Following the commotion of previous, more conventional speeches, the crowd descended into a reverent silence. No one moved when the cameras were raised. The subsequent speech lacked infantile qualities. It was a moral assertion that transcended formality and resonated universally. She said, "My parents have instilled in me that service is the utmost honor," her tone composed. "However, I have noticed from my interactions with folks that service transcends just inaugurating facilities or doing ceremonial acts. It entails auditory engagement. It is recognizing the individual before you even when society deems them invisible." She discussed famished children retiring for the night and isolated adolescents in overcrowded quarters. She said that gaining attention facilitates the ignoring of others. She depicted a hospice girl who had never had a book and a community center youngster who had never been welcomed by anybody outside his family. Her speech was unadorned, but her words penetrated the atmosphere with the clarity of unblemished truth. No theatrics or exaggeration, only genuine compassion, thoughtfully presented to an audience that has experienced it all before, although never in this manner. She paused intermittently, not due to worry, but to allow her words to resonate before continuing. She commended the charities present for their empathy and efforts. She then urged the participants, many of whom were quite wealthy, to contribute beyond their financial means. She saw the tables of billionaires and nobles and said, "A check holds significance, yet your time is invaluable. Your focus is unencumbered." Hearing is a superpower. A particular comment was often referenced by the media the same morning. "Kindness differs from charity," she said with clarity for her age. "Contributing surplus items constitutes charitable giving. Providing someone with their necessities is an act of kindness. Justice is a universal entitlement." She regarded Queen Camilla with a degree of subtlety as she articulated her statement. The gesture was seen regardless of intent. Camilla's lips tightened as her fingers gripped the stem of her glass. Some attendees saw it as a time of anguish or a spectral competition. Others, more empathetic individuals, saw it as a moment of collective conviction. Charlotte concluded her statements with a commitment. "I shall fulfill my obligation," she said. "Although my voice is diminutive, I shall employ it for those who lack a voice. I urge all listeners this evening to comply. Kindly pay attention." She stepped away from the microphone and executed a modest, timid bow. A moment of silence. The chamber exploded with noise. A respectful and poignant standing ovation ensued. Several individuals wiped away their tears while others nodded in astonishment. William and Catherine seemed both proud and astonished. Prince George applauded exuberantly, radiating joy. Prince Louis, without the capacity for understanding, smiled at his sister. Charlotte transcended mere symbolism. She emerged as a voice that would resonate after the music ceased and the garments were stored. She transformed the night with her remarks. It has subtly but indisputably altered the monarchy. Regal composure. Queen Camilla's response. Queen Camilla surveyed the evening from the center of the royal table with the composure of a woman who has traversed public life for decades. She greeted guests with a smile, acknowledged speakers with a nod, and conversed quietly with others. Nonetheless, Princess Charlotte's eyes betrayed apprehension, and her jaw clenched as she ascended the platform. It was a micro-expression shown in body language and breath, but not captured in photographs. Camilla was astonished to be confronted that evening, especially by a youth. Camilla maintained unwavering eye contact as Charlotte spoke. She first constricted her lips into a thin, taut line, as if evaluating the importance of each syllable. Camilla fidgeted in her chair. When mentioning persons who feel invisible despite being amidst others, a detail noted by astute royal journalists. She halted an attendant's murmur by casually, almost dismissively lifting her hand. She observed Charlotte with great focus. Camilla's regal composure began to deteriorate with the statement, "Kindness is not charity, but justice." Her prolonged, deliberate blinks seemed to soothe her during an unforeseen emotional surge. Rather than raising her wine glass, her hand trembled over the crystal. A swift, quick exhalation from her. King Charles regarded her with concern from across the table. However, she remained unresponsive. She stayed still, tense and silent, an embodiment of tranquility under significant emotional turmoil. Charlotte's statement seemed to penetrate the distance in an unsettling manner. It was neither a political attack nor an implicit critique. It was much gentler and perhaps more potent. Gentle facts, spoken without animosity, have had a precise impact. Encountering such an unforced exhibition of genuine connection from Diana's granddaughter must have been challenging and very intimate for a woman who had devoted years to seeking public validation. Camilla remained for an extended while after the standing ovation as the audience whispered and clapped. She grasped the edges of her seat to stabilize herself. Ultimately, she ascended gradually. She grinned once again. However, it was more subdued and infused with a sense of reckoning rather than anger or jealousy. Subsequently, Camilla departed from the celebration prematurely that evening. A palace spokesperson informed the media that she had an early commitment the following morning. However, observant individuals noted her tight grip on her handbag against her chest, her avoidance of reporters' gazes, and her brief, formal nod to Princess Charlotte as she traversed the corridor. The night astonished many, although Queen Camilla saw a deeper significance. It provoked profound contemplation that lasted long after the music concluded. When the next generation articulates more emphatically and clearly than its predecessor, a woman must contemplate her legacy. Voice of the emerging generation, the implicit transformation. Once the adulation dissipated behind velvet curtains and gilded walls, a grim reality persisted. Princess Charlotte unexpectedly opened a door with remarkable swiftness, not only by delivering an emotive speech. The monarchy maintained its protocols, facade, and aloof dignity for years. However, this evening, a youth spoke their thoughts openly and audaciously in a public setting. She revealed a glimpse of the future. The younger royals, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are maturing in an era characterized by global dialogue, digital transparency, and an incessant public yearning for authenticity. Individuals want to understand the figures behind crowns and castles rather than only admiring them. They like leaders that are attentive, empathetic, and exhibit vulnerability. Charlotte's address accomplished that. The manner in which she articulated it was significant, composed, lucid, kind, and undisturbed by the environment. This was not a spectacle orchestrated by a royal staffer. A youth who traversed hospital halls, clasped hands with sobbing youngsters, and absorbed narratives often disregarded by grown-ups authored it. Charlotte was developing her own identity apart from that of her parents. The staff murmured at the alteration inside the palace. Her candid remarks elicited tears from several others. Certain traditionalists expressed concern over the precedent it will set. Is it appropriate for a young royal to express personal sentiments without authorization? Would this undermine the monarchy's narrative? Discussions started in private. The answer was already there in the public square. Individuals made preparations. They paid attention. They wanted more quantities. Educators delivered Charlotte's speech in schools around the UK. Students contributed essays about leadership in the 21st century. Millions disseminated her statements and commended her emotional acumen on social media. For many days, Princess of Hope and Charlotte's voice were trending. Some referred to her as the next People's Princess, but others more aptly compared her to Diana for her audacity to convey uncomfortable truths with remarkable compassion. Charlotte's action was unassuming but revolutionary. She reminded everyone that when used correctly, influence pertains to service rather than prestige. She accomplished this by articulating her thoughts at critical moments rather than seeking attention. This moment represented the transition of an invisible but essential element. Whoever garnered the world's trust by integrity and empathy ascended to the throne. Charlotte matured into a young woman discovering her destiny in that tranquil evolution. The world listened to her not due to her royal status, but because of her authenticity. Public and media adulation. The next morning, Princess Charlotte's comments were ubiquitous. They were broadcast repeatedly on television, radio, and all prominent social media channels. Her understated, composed presentation at the podium in her blue gown swiftly became an emblem of a novel monarchy. Reports about a prospective leader disseminated globally. The Times said, "The whisper becomes a roar. Princess Charlotte stuns the world." A friendly tabloid referred to her as a new Princess of Hearts, establishing an unavoidable but organic connection to her grandmother. She seemed indifferent to her non-linear ascent to the throne. She had something more uncommon: authenticity enveloped in innocence. The world was captivated. Journalists swiftly crafted insightful narratives that articulated her message. Some referenced the emotional impact of her remarks on organizations which saw a substantial increase in contributions overnight. Political observers debated whether her subtle but conspicuous look towards Queen Camilla was a calculated statement or an impulsive act of courage. Each article, post, and comment recognized a significant occurrence. This was a regal disclosure, not a performance. Citizens of many origins in the UK participated. Educators used Charlotte's address to impart lessons on empathy and public oration. Nurses and social workers commended her for advocating on behalf of the vulnerable. A spectator in the first row published a viral video. A homeless survivor in the audience wept softly as Charlotte spoke about the overlooked and hidden. Kensington Palace discreetly published the woman's letter expressing gratitude to the little princess for seeing me. Rumors proliferate on royal forums and fan sites. Will Charlotte speak again? Has the monarchy entered a more vocal era? Was Queen Camilla's tense expression throughout the speech? Noteworthy royal observers scrutinized every aspect from body language to speech patterns for underlying significance. Amidst the turmoil, one truth emerged. Charlotte spoke her thoughts not to impress or get approval, but to advocate for the vulnerable. The individuals responded with profound appreciation. Within the palace, she had a challenging dilemma: how to preserve her youth while illuminating her brilliance. William and Catherine appropriately refrained from official remarks to allow the moment to resonate with the public. They recognized that their daughter's voice resonated globally in solitude. The media amplified her narrative rather than fabricated it. As her voice reverberated across countries, it became apparent that this transcended a mere viral occurrence. A durable connection started between the populace and a princess who articulated with clarity and precision. Crown future, an emerging legacy. Princess Charlotte's remarks resonated after the royal gala. A candle that brightened more than a room emitted a soft, steady radiance. Her comments resonated with the general populace beyond the confines of royalty and sensational media coverage in the subsequent days and weeks. Kensington Palace got a multitude of letters. Educators, philanthropic workers, and adolescents participated. The child made people feel acknowledged, prompting them to send stories, photographs, and thank you cards addressed to Charlotte rather than Her Royal Highness. Charlotte maintained her regimen inside the royal household, instructing taking strolls in the garden with her siblings and engaging in evening reading with her mother. She had a transformation. Not more boisterous or boastful, only more resolute, as if something inside her fractured. She faced the royal spotlight and discovered it propelled her forward rather than overwhelming her. Catherine scrutinized her daughter at that moment. She saw Charlotte speaking more deliberately, asking profound inquiries about the world, and seemed both inspired and subtly weighed down by the significance of her comments. William subtly reminded her one evening that leadership is a lifelong vocation, not a performance. Charlotte acquiesced, understanding more than she revealed. The media progressed. Nevertheless, the populace retained the memory. In the next months, Charlotte would attend youth forums, art exhibitions, and children's welfare charity events. No one urged her forward. She entered alone. Upon her arrival, she imparted purpose rather than anticipation. The older royals contemplated silently at her momentous occasion. Some saw it as a harmless update. Others struggled to maintain decorum without seeming aloof. Her authority was indisputable, not just due to her royal lineage, but because she articulated her beliefs with genuine conviction. Books, films, and seminars will certainly reference the address in the years to come. The evening a child spoke the truth with affection, a night when the crown radiated valor rather than wealth shall be commemorated. Princess Charlotte never aspired to represent a generation. She just responded to the unvoiced summons of her heart. She revealed a reality more ancient than any monarchy. Genuine power derives from engagement, not domination, from compassion, not coercion. That night was not distinguished by acclaim or media coverage. It was the delicate emerging of a little girl discovering her voice with the world attentive because she had something to express. This transcended the elevation of a young royal. It marked the beginning of a monarchy that is attuned, empathetic, and governs with compassion. If Charlotte's voice is only the inception, the crown's future might be more luminous, audacious, and exquisite than ever anticipated. The world observes, and she is prepared. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.